Cheers. Cheers.
Where's our wonderful Kills cups?
They're downstairs.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of A Wonderful Chaos.
And we've got tomorrow's the last one.
I think we're going to prolong that last one for like every time we ever do anything together. It's going to be the last one, the last.
The last walk.
So, Bambos, what's our topic today?
Today, Andy, we are talking about my friends are not as important. I'm not as important to my friends as they are to me.
Yeah, I'm not as important to my friends as they are to me.
And this was a statement made from a common friend of ours.
And we're going to discuss that and
so much more.
So much more on A Wonderful
Chaos. Used to the music not being playing on
I know. It's all a bit new for us.
Yeah.
It's all a bit ramshackly.
We're on our phone today.
Jazz hands.
We're using our phone because we discovered the laptop has bad mic
issues.
And I'm wondering how JC and Bululang are. We haven't seen them for a while.
Of course, Bululang is our first one to chime in. Welcome. Where are you presenting from? We are in Amsterdam, Bululang. We are in Amsterdam.
In the 9 streets, Bululang.
In the center of Amsterdam. Yes.
Because we're temporarily in the Netherlands, we do not make effort to set up our backdrop.
Yes, so we apologize that we don't look as cheesy as we normally look with our fake backdrops.
And professional.
You know, it's funny because our backdrop and the area we're in is so nice that it's kind of crazy that we've always been using backdrops because the setting is really already fantastic.
I liked finding our backdrops, though.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, setting the context for the shows. I was told by a dear friend that he said our backdrops were unprofessional and they didn't allow the show to grow. That's what he said. And in different words than that, but that was basically.
Yeah.
And I thought,
does your friend watch our shows?
Probably not.
Just because of the backdrops.
Just because of the backdrops. If we didn't have those backdrops, you'd be there every day. So Bambos, this is a topic. You sent me a screenshot from a friend of yours who sent you this message.
Yeah.
And I told you I didn't want to run with this show at first.
Yeah. And then you felt into it.
And then I felt into it. And I said, yeah, this is a nice way to spend an hour. And just to give the title once again is that my friends mean more to me than
they do than I to them.
Than I to them. My friends mean more to me than I do to them. And that was it was interesting because I think a lot of times in people's lives they have a similar experience, that there's a person in their life that they feel like I'm always the one. It's always me who's reaching out. It's always me who's arranging things. And it's always me who takes responsibility and on and on. And then at some point, resentment piles up because the person feels like, well, aren't you going to make the same effort I make? And then there tends to be some kind of breakdown in a relationship.
Yeah. And our dear friend, I'm not sure if we should keep him anonymous.
Keep him anonymous. Don't say unless he knows we're going to throw him under the bus.
Well, I don't see it. Anyway, he made a post today.
Okay.
He published
he posted it. Did he? Okay.
And he said, evaluating friendships, asking the question, is this person a true, real friend? The answer often is not obvious. It may seem like, up until you need help or something happens, no availability. Work, more important. A movie, more important. Then the frustration may be very big and difficult to process. At times, asking the above questions may help. If in doubt, sit down with the friend and discuss the friendship. What are our shared values? What is this friendship based on? Do we see things in the same way? Do we see each other at the same level?
A lot. He went into a lot of questions all at the same time.
Yeah.
And some of the questions feel like they went really far, really fast. So I would slow it down a little bit. We might need to go back and look at it, not necessarily now, but
yeah, definitely.
When I when I started to move through that emotions of feeling any resentment to someone else, I think the first thing that came into me was that I get to decide for myself how I want to live, and everybody else gets to decide how they want to live, and I don't have to be concerned if we're not aligned.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference and I think this speaks to so many topics we brought on the show. But once I have an expectation, and then I judge another based on my expectation, that's when there's a big potential for problems in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as if I love you in a certain way, and the expectation is you need to love me in that same way.
Yeah.
And what I've seen in my own life, when I've had that expectation, it prevents me from actually seeing and experiencing the way they love me, and it could be completely different.
Yeah.
And it's like my brain almost needs to let go of any idea that I have.
Yeah.
To fit tune into what's already there. And I fucked up a lot of times in my life when it comes to seeing others.
Okay. How's that?
Oh, just because I need them to be a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
And it was only until I didn't need anything anymore where I could actually just be with others without needing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in fact, I'll often have people in my own network questioning if I'm a true friend.
Yeah. I've had a lot of the people from your network questioning that.
You?
No. You've told me stories of that.
Yeah. I actually don't remember, so I'm just talking now, but I'm just feeling into it. And we would have conversations. Like, I'd be challenged if I care about them. And in a way, I do spend more time alone than with people, but it doesn't diminish the love that I feel for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But you've been judged for that heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, after talking with a lot of them, they got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, one of them shared with me that I taught them what it means to look after yourself.
Oh, nice.
So by me living the way I'm living and making choice for myself. In fact, this evening I spoke to a friend who's pregnant.
Okay.
Or his girlfriend's pregnant.
Yeah.
And he was talking, I'm preparing myself to not sleep a lot and da. And I'm like, don't forget that, and don't forget that women are preparing their bodies for the last 9 months for this experience. And for us men, we actually get the reality check of being pregnant when the baby's out. And even though I hear that you want to sleep as less as your partner, sometimes you sleeping 5 hours and then for the rest of the day being there for her could be the most loving thing you can do. So look after yourself also. And then I said, you can also forget everything I just said to you and do it your way. But
I didn't quite understand what you said.
He was almost going to sacrifice himself to be there every 2 hours, and then they're both exhausted.
Oh.
And so what if you actually do get some sleep and be there for your wife and the baby during the day?
Oh.
You can be fully present with them.
But have they had the baby already?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
But he's practicing and not sleeping enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating. What was I thinking? You were saying something else, and I had my thought with you a second ago.
I forgot what I said. Was it about doing your thing and act of self-love?
Yeah, I guess. I think one of the hardest things when people grow is that in a way, we are unaware of what we need from other people and what we desire from them. And when they don't give that to us, then it's easy to blame without seeing that it was our desire. And I think that's one of those things in life. It's it's a fine line, because when one desires it, they don't even know that that isn't a realistic expectation to have, per se. Like, for instance, uh, I had a really beautiful moment yesterday that I mentioned to you earlier when we were walking. And so I have a friend who was a professor of mine when I studied in Australia. And he's never called me, right? But when I call him, it's like a brotherhood, and and it's just like there's just love. But I don't think, oh, I'm the last one that called, I'm going to wait for him to call. It's like, no, I just feel like calling him, so I call him.
And you never blame him for not calling you.
In fact, I didn't never thought about it. Not only did I not blame him, I didn't think that I'm the only one calling. The thought never crossed my mind. I'm like, if I feel like calling, I'll call, and if he feels like calling, he'll call, and if he never feels like calling, that's not a problem, because if I hear his voice, I feel connected to him. So that's more of my, that's more of what I'm interested in. And if we weren't connected, I wouldn't call him.
Yeah.
So that the more of the issue is, are we connected when we call? So he called me yesterday out of the blue. And his last name, I told you, his name is Gordon Waite. Sweet, lovely man. And he was,
Wait.
And then I screamed on the phone, wait. Are you dying? What's going on? Like, the first thing I shout in the phone is, are you dying? Why are you calling me? Like, I started to make fun and joy over the fact that he was calling me.
Yeah.
And it brought us closer. And I mean, I get emotional, but it was, he said he was showering and that he thought of me. And then of course I made my joke, like, well, were you naked and stuff? And then he laughed more. And when what he shared
You're
was
such a dick.
What he shared was that how much he loved me and how grateful he was. And it was not normal for us to interact that way. So it was really a beautiful connection. But the funny thing is, imagine if in all those years when I would call him every 6 months to a year just to hear his voice and have a chuckle, if I was resentful for that, I would have never received that loving connection that happened yesterday. Unexpected, out of nowhere, and it was really, really beautiful. But if I had said, it's always me that calls him, it's always, then like it would have been transactional.
Yeah.
I would have been calling him because I needed him or expected something back. Yeah.
And a lot of the times that is the case.
Yeah.
And there is something in it, like it's it's an unspoken expectation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people are incapable of expressing that expectation and making it about them.
Yeah.
And they go straight for blame.
Yeah. And I see it often come up a lot, and I'm sure you see it a lot, when someone says, listen, can we make an appointment? And then you say, listen, I just don't have any free space at the moment to make an appointment. And then the other person takes that as a slight.
Yeah.
Like, and then they'll say things like, if I was really an important friend, then you would make the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very personal reaction to it.
Mm.
And it's really funny, when one person sort of says or forgets to meet or doesn't show up or cancels 3 times in a row, like, I take it weirdly as like a sign of friendship. I say, wow, you're comfortable enough to take care of yourself, that basically when things don't go right, you're not obligated to be together, and if it doesn't work, then isn't that great? God forbid we're together because you feel the burden and obligation of being together. Like, how much would I want to be together with someone who feels that?
Oh, fuck that.
So yeah, but I see that happen a lot, right? That I think it happens with you because you've also had to, like, take time to give yourself the opportunity to do your work and to do, like, the things, the fitness that you, like, cherish so much.
Yeah, and being in Amsterdam, I've had quite a few people message me to meet up, and I did make a few appointments, but I had to cancel them because work came in.
Yeah.
And also just processing a lot being here. So I told everyone when making the appointment that please hold it lightly. I want to honor your time.
Yeah.
But just know that there might be a cancellation coming because I'm making the appointment now, but I can't foresee how it's going to be in a few days for me.
Mm.
And I do have a few days here. And shout out to Farah, for example, and Nadine. You both
But they didn't give you a hard time.
No, not at all.
No.
They saw me, and it was really beautiful.
Mm.
And we both expressed it would be nice to see, but there'll be a moment.
Yeah. And I think in my life, I feel like I've surrounded myself with people that are grateful when we see each other and realize I'm not seeing you because I'm avoiding you.
I always think you have that with me, though, Andy.
What's that?
Avoiding me.
Do you really think that?
No.
That's going to be.
So back to our dear friend. And there's also the other part, right, where there are people in our lives who are simply not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to dismiss that.
That there are people who just are not ever there.
Only when they need to talk to you.
Oh, I don't have anyone like that in my life.
Oh, me neither. But I'm taking the example of our common friend. Like he feels that he's there fully when it's needed.
When the person calls him, he's fully there. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Let me slow that down a little bit also. I'm not even sure anymore if in his context he sees them suffering and he's there for them, or they ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be very much what often happens is someone calls and you give away your time and energy freely.
Yeah.
And then weirdly, then you're resentful to them for you giving up your time, where you could have always said, "Listen, this just doesn't suit me." Yeah, that's one of the things I learned kind of in my later years was that I'm actually happy when anyone asks me for what they want to ask me for, because I don't feel bad saying no.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is when people aren't comfortable saying no, then they say yes more often than they'd like to, but they don't realize that it's not the other person's responsibility. It's not your responsibility to say yes. You could also say no.
Yeah.
And I noticed that pattern will often come up when people just don't feel comfortable. Yeah. And let's also agree that they often won't say no because the other person can manipulate. That also happens a lot.
Say that again.
So, like, what I see is like I often see it like between interesting. We just refreshed. So, like with a mother-child relationship, you'll often see that a mother might have expectations. We've done a few shows on this as well, where they'll have expectations of the child, and when the child doesn't fulfill them, the blame comes in. And so what happens is that since the child knows the expectation and knows the blame that's going to come, they'll actually give and do things that they otherwise wouldn't want to do just because they don't want to feel the sense of blame that's going to come. So in a way, they're not really only overcoming the ability to say no, they're making peace with the fact they're going to be rejected by the parent or blamed or whatever the consequence is. Yeah.
It almost sounds like also we're trying to fulfill a definition of what it means to be a friend or a mother or a father or a daughter. Like there's a certain idea of how it should be. So
yeah, well, that's the challenge, right?
Yeah. I'm at the moment in a relationship, and what I love about being with Anna is it's really a choice to spend time together. And yesterday we messaged each other, we missed each other, but she was doing her self-care yesterday.
Okay.
And it was really beautiful that she took that space, and I even messaged and celebrated her that she can do that.
Yeah.
Because prior to me, she was in a relationship where that was not even possible.
Got it.
So I see every time she does that in our connection that she trusts.
Yeah. and connect that back to this. I'm trying to feel into
Oh,
whether it was connected to the subject, which it may not, but just
actually, it's very similar to what you said when people feel comfortable to counsel with you several times in an appointment.
Yeah.
It means they trust you.
Oh, yeah. Or, I mean, I take it as they trust me, but I also want to say it could be interpreted in 100 different ways.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say they're not responsible. They're not, you know what's funny? There's a kind of a well-known, I don't know, he does I don't know, TikTok or Instagram. He does Instagram. Jason Silva. He lives in Amsterdam, so I'll see him every fourth day or something. We'll walk on the streets and I'll see
Jason
him.
Silva.
Yeah, do you know him? He does videos.
Well, you've talked about it. But...
Yeah, because he walks by and I'll see him every so often. But it's funny because there's a few occasions when I'd say, "Hey, why don't we meet?" You know, and then he'll say, "Oh, I'll call you tomorrow," and then he doesn't call the next day. And I think it's happened on 3 occasions already. And it's always been quite funny because for me, I'm almost like it's fun to invite, but it's almost like now it's almost a joke. You know, let me just invite for the humor of it, of him not coming, right? But it was funny that, I mean, in him saying, "Oh, I'll come," you know, I realized that one could have that other side of brain that said, "Oh, I see him and then I'm inviting him," and I know how it is if you're well known and people want to meet you, it's annoying, right? So on one side, and it's funny because I would also see the possibility of just saying, "Hey, listen, I'm so busy, I don't have the time to meet." That'd probably be something more how I would do it. But I realized that it's always been open, and I've always been inviting.
Yeah.
When it's just funny how, and I'll see him again tomorrow, and I'll say, "Hey, when are you coming over?" You know, and maybe give him a hard time and play and have fun, you know. But the humor is I think what I've noticed is that if one meets someone and then they promise to do or to show up or to call and they don't, there's a resentment that kind of will seep in. Like, "Oh, it's one of this," and I'm just treated as like, "Oh, he's just busy and that's his life and that's great," you know. I think that he's not beholden to me, nor am I to him in any shape or form. So what would be, it would be weird to be resentful. Yeah.
So something came up for me and I'm not sure, like if I make appointments with friends, like I'm in Cyprus, for example.
Yeah.
And I'm with a bicycle. Everything is like half an hour to an hour to an hour and a half distance.
Yeah.
So I made an appointment with a friend. Actually, with a friend that we shared an intense past together, like during my drug addiction times. And he came out of it great. He's a chef. He's running a restaurant. So we were going to meet. And I go into town, like, and I'm always on time. And then he messages me half an hour before the appointment. Says, "Hey, listen, can I meet you an hour and a half later?"
Yeah.
And I have another appointment.
Obviously, yeah.
So in that context, I just showed him, "Hey, listen, in future, if we make appointments, it would be nice if you let me know beforehand if you're going to move it." Just because I'm pretty Dutch right now, and I plan myself.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh because he very Cypriot. Like I realized doing business in Cyprus, I have to surrender. Like no one ever comes on time except for my girlfriend.
Yeah. But what happened? What happened when you sent the message to him that said, "Please do me a favor if you're going to not show up"?
He got it. Definitely.
Okay, but what did he say anything or what?
Yeah, he responded like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Next time." And I'm like, "Oh, there's not even needed to apologize, but just know that I did make that little bit of effort to come meet you, and I feel a bit disappointed."
Yeah, I think that speaks to another thing which has broader consequences than meeting your friend, and it just kind of dovetails with another theme, is that when someone exhibits certain behavior, then that behavior is basically what you form your picture of that person. And then it's kind of humorous because one wouldn't see, for instance, that might mean that there's a job opportunity, but you wouldn't suggest them for that job.
It's happened, yeah.
Yeah. But what I think is like kind of interesting is that people don't realize that their behavior has consequences that are much further reaching than they see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is sad. Like if people realized how much they define their future through their own behavior, then they would see that they're not really just victims, that they do have some agency over how people perceive them and the opportunities that are being given to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had a friend. We have a friend. We're kind of this is subject that kind
We
of
have
goes.
so many friends.
Yeah, I leave them this broad mess, but we have a friend, and he really was insulted, right? Almost got angry at me because I said, listen, I wouldn't be comfortable putting you in jobs because I see you don't show up on time and there's a reliability, and then he got really angry at me and said, Andy, but I show up on time in the jobs. It's not that I don't show up on time on jobs. I just don't show up on time. And then I laughed and said, but keep in mind that like if that behavior, I can only judge you on the behavior which you think is acceptable in our relationship, and I have to assume that that's also acceptable beyond that relationship.
I haven't had the experience so far in my life. Like I've also had someone that I was going to work with, a dear friend actually, and she made a statement saying, "Hey, I'm always on time with my clients."
Yeah.
So we worked together a couple of times, and guess what?
Yeah.
Late both times by half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I couldn't blame her because I already knew it.
Exactly. That's the humor of it.
But then if I would say something, it's the weather.
Oh yeah, it would always be personal. Yeah. It would be like always personal. Bolalang says, and this is interesting. He says we're always in an interview.
We're always on an interview, Bolalang. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if I look at my jobs and my work, it always comes from people who've had prior experiences with me who always will suggest me because they basically are feeling like I'm putting my reputation on the line because if he screws up, it's a reflection on me. So yeah, it's really true. People don't realize how much, but this kind of, we're taking the topic and I'd like to at least connect these two subjects, right? Because on one level, when we said I'm in a relationship with someone and they're not showing themselves to be necessarily reliable.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that they're not reliable to me.
And how do we define reliability?
Exactly. And then how do we find reliability? Because someone might say, Bambos always says no to meet me, but that's because you're so reliable in your work. If you get my picture, you're always working, getting things done, taking care of yourself. And you can make that work because you set boundaries on the interactions you have.
Yeah.
But from the outside, people could be frustrated with that, of course, and then say, hey, he doesn't make time for me and that kind of stuff. Yeah. What I found interesting was that in going to Spain and spending the months on the farm, I noticed that my work picked up. And I saw that not doing a wonderful chaos, it was almost like I told the universe, hey, I've got time. Like it was almost like during a wonderful chaos, it was like, I'm doing my business. I've got my board calls but other than that, I've got a wonderful chaos. And so now when a wonderful chaos time opened up, I noticed it was really like all these projects and all these people and just a lot of things were showing up. And I see that subtly I was pushing those things away because I knew that it would get a bit too much for me to do those projects and do a daily talk show like we were doing before.
So the undercurrent message is this is going to really be the last show.
Although we do have a show tomorrow.
Yeah. No, that was just a joke. We're actually going to come back, but it won't be like before.
Yeah, when we come back, it won't be daily. But who knows? Maybe we'll do a month. Every show we'll do a day show if we feel the energy.
The full day, guys. Full day of us talking. That means we can do it while we're cooking.
Exactly.
Because we don't have a backdrop. We'll go down to the kitchen. We'll go for a walk.
No holds barred.
But when you talked about going to Spain, and this is really off topic, but me being in Cyprus, I saw how challenging it was to hold time, to be on time.
Oh, yeah.
Like something about the heat and the way people move. If I'm in the city, there's a lot of traffic. If I'm in the mountains, there's nothing.
Yeah.
But it is all of a sudden, I had trouble keeping up, and I did get a lot of work actually, and that's why I'm here back in Holland.
Yeah. Yeah, I had horrible time the same.
I didn't want to work. I wanted to be in Cyprus. I wanted to like. I've taken the time now to be in Cyprus and discover my relationship with Cyprus. And all of a sudden, Amsterdam is like every 2 days. And now I called them like, Andy, I have so much work and I'm giving them to other photographers, but I'm going to start planning to come over.
Yeah.
Shall we transition and go back to
the theme
the
of
message?
today? Yes.
He says, "What a great conversation!" So he's loving it.
Oh, nice. He's there. Okay.
Yeah. I would have loved to bring him on actually.
Yeah.
So he says it's hard, painful, but long-term useful. Evaluating friendships, asking, is this person a true and real friend?
Let's stop there.
Yeah.
So that would speak to this individual having an idea of what a true and real friend is.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing for one to see in themselves is once they say true and real friend, in a weird way, they're then defining what that means. And that can be dangerous because that can be used as a yardstick to judge other people.
Yeah.
So I would say I tend to like to take statements that could be interpreted personally and make them impersonal, because that's how I have found I can look at people and still love them. Because if I look at them in judgment, it's hard to love something I also judge. And the way that I look at it would be to say, what is it that fills my heart up and makes me want to spend more time with a person?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not about that person not being a good friend. It's about, it doesn't give me what I need. So it's not about them.
So it doesn't make sense. Or does it make sense?
What do you mean?
It's about exploring what makes sense.
Yeah, it's about what is it. I will often say, is this relationship a match or a no match? Like, does what I need and what you need match? And the funny thing is that it's not that it's a match or a no match continuously. It changes over time. Like, I've had really good friends who I don't speak to at all right now because we're no longer a match. But there's no blame. There's clearly reasons that we don't have connection in some cases.
Yeah.
And then there'll be times when there'll be a match, and then there'll be some years no match, and then there'll be a match again.
Yeah.
So it's like I think that's a healthier way to look at it.
Those are the best friendships for me, because it's like you don't need to be in connection all the time, and when you do meet again, it's like really beautiful. It's like a catch up.
But I'm curious on that. When I said no match, it was also because we had differing values at a certain moment, not just because we weren't in close proximity.
Well, outgrowing each other.
Yeah, outgrowing it. We did a show, of course, on outgrowing friends. Right?
And then, but it doesn't mean you don't love each other. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
hopefully not.
So I do have friends that I don't spend as much time as I used to.
Yeah.
But when we meet each other, I feel heart opened when I'm with them.
Yeah.
And again, I don't feel the need to interact with them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And there'll be a phone call here and there.
Yeah, but isn't it funny that there'll be some friends like that, but then there'll be some friends that have needs of you, where when you can't satisfy that need, then you'll feel the resentment come from them.
I'm a bit cautious to project where I'm at today, so I just don't make it personal. I do have friends who they would call me when they had issues, and then I'd spend an hour with them. They'd talk and they'd feel better.
Okay.
But I stopped doing that also, just because I didn't have the space for it anymore.
Yeah, I remember you told me that some months ago, actually.
Yeah. And so sometimes if I get a message from certain individuals, it will be like, oh, I know what they need, but I just don't have the bandwidth right now.
Yeah.
And I'll feel a kind of pressure, and I feel a part of me that wants to, but I really tune in and I make sure that my yes is a yes.
Yeah.
Because if I say I can create the space and be there for them, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But if I see it's going to really stretch me just because I'm having really long days of
Yeah.
working, then it's a no.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Because of how I work, I really am not a therapist, or there's no degree. So I just have friends.
Andy?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't see that. It said be careful.
What do you mean?
You had a notification saying be careful.
Oh, did I?
Continue.
The thing that I saw was that I lost my thought. I'm like, what do I have to be careful about? That's more interesting for me than anything I was about to say.
Be careful.
Since the way I work is that I just make friends, and through the friendships we engage around topics that come up, and the topics don't have to be problem oriented. They can be just general life themes. And what I found, which is kind of interesting, is since I get paid to have friends, right? Like that's really what it's like. And I remember speaking to one man in particular. He was in the Wounded Healer book. When I shared with him that actually I kind of arranged my life so that I just have people around that I love, and then we share kind of wisdom and insight and support and mentor, and then I get paid. And then he was really pissed off at me.
Because yeah, the definition of what a friendship or how it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
And you made it monetary.
Yeah, exactly. And I made it monetary.
You're such a douchebag, Andy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was it. Like, it was like, you are making money off your friends, and what I realized is that, it isn't black and white. Obviously, I'm talking to a lot of people in a day, and not like the majority of them will be spending any money for our discussions. But there's this feeling like when I work with someone, I'm not working with a person. It's almost like I'm inviting you in to become a friend. And from there, we'll see what makes sense and how we can support one another in whatever shape that takes. But it's not understood in a way, because a lot of times I had a client yesterday who I spoke to for 2 hours, and they couldn't quite understand, like, all we're doing is we're talking. Like, that's what we do, and then we'll see what comes up. And for them, it was like, but aren't we supposed to have, they said, I actually spent an hour discussing what a life coach was. Because they said, I need to understand what a life coach is. And I was like, well, a life coach is whatever it is that they've defined themselves to be, And of course, there's other programs that have better definitions. Yeah.
I have to say that I didn't understand what it was to be a coach until I started doing it.
Oh, wow.
And to actually hold that space for individuals in heavy moments, that's like a life force exchange.
Yeah.
Because to actually listen, like, friends will normally want to give you quick answers and get you out of the way, but to actually hold space and listen, is really an art. So I got it. I like when I charge my clients now, there's no guilt. It's really like, well, actually there was never guilt, because I understood that they need to invest for the value that they're getting. And it's
But what was the thing? Because you said when you started holding space, what was the moment, if there was, or what was the thing you became aware of? What was that, like, oh, now I get it? What was it?
I would say it's more a visceral feeling, like a feeling in my body, like how much it takes to be there for people, like physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
Because as someone is living things, you're living it with them.
Yeah.
You're living your past. You need to access parts of yourself which are not always comfortable to access. That you've moved through.
To stay present with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautifully stated. Yeah, otherwise you go into autopilot and you're not really present with them.
Yeah.
But you called me a lot, actually, when you started, and to share your gratitude for all the hours I spent listening to you.
Still do.
Yeah, I know you do.
Have I told you today how grateful I am for you?
You haven't told me that I love you.
I haven't.
Oh no, you have. I just was remembering a song.
Today.
Have I told you today that I love you?
Today, me and Andy had an adventure. Off topic.
Do you want to introduce which of the many things that happened today do you want to discuss?
Show them your shoes.
So for several years, I've had I would call it a judgment. Been mentoring several individuals in Northern California. And what I noticed is the more successful those individuals became, the more that they wore funny clothing. And although I wanted to stay open to that, I would notice that there was slight judgment towards them. Say, I want to use the word slight. And I even remember quite a well-known entrepreneur. I can't name them because they're that well-known and it would be uncomfortable. They would come into these meetings that would be, and then they'd wear these shoes. And since I didn't, me and names, it's, if I can reference a person with something else. So I always used to, for many years, I just called him Toes. So his name was Toes for me. So just for the sake of the pleasure of this moment.
I'm loving this moment.
Bambos forces me.
I didn't force him.
To go to the shop to go get
the 5 toes.
The 5 toes. So now Andy's got 2 5 toes.
I love it.
And I've had them on all day. And the big surprise outside of that I'm getting used to them is I thought when I came in, Ronnie was gonna lose her shit. Like I thought when Ronnie saw this toe, she was gonna say, "Take those fucking things off right now," because Ronnie, although she appreciates me, she's often a little bit embarrassed by how I go out.
We've seen Andy go out with flip-flops, underwear, and high socks.
Yes.
Just to the corner shop across the street.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a busy shopping street, and I noticed I have no issue just going out on my underwear to leave the trash out. You probably have seen me do that in my socks and underwear. And I'm like, hey, come on, like, get a life. Who cares? But so,
I'm married. Who cares?
Exactly. The years of trying to impress anyone, they left a long time. But yeah, so I've got them on, and I'm getting used to them. It's a different feeling, and yeah, it's something new.
So me and Andy have always kind of interacted also around health and habits and rituals. I'm wearing these shoes. I have 9 pairs. I run in them. Like I rarely wear shoes nowadays unless it's for me going to a professional photo shoot and so forth.
Yeah.
But these shoes are so comfortable. They completely changed my life. They strengthen my foot, my posture, my balancing, yoga poses. So because Andy,
how much are you getting paid for this advertising?
0, not yet. But because Andy walks so much, I'm like, Andy, it's time.
Okay.
He's like, time? It's time to change.
And what was the best part of it was when I was in the store, like the shoes were over 100 euros. And it was a really nice moment because the shop assistant wasn't very nice. Like I think he thought these aren't my target customers.
Exactly.
I don't know what he saw in me, but he thought that isn't one of my customers. That was the feeling that. And then at some point, I tried on 2 of the pairs, and they weren't. There was nothing so remarkable. I had to get them.
Yeah.
And then I looked at you, which I thought was a beautiful moment, and said, "You know what? For the experiment, it's not worth 100 euros. So I think it's interesting, but it's just not worth 100 euros for the experiment."
And that's where our friendship went to shit. I was offended.
And then the guy, which I really like, and I think this is part of life which I enjoy, is that I was honest and authentic with you, and he was there. Although he wasn't pleasant to that moment, he said to me, "What is it worth to you?" Which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah.
Because he asked authentically. He wasn't trying even to sell me. He's like, well, what is it? And I was like, well, 50 euros. And then I could see him like wanting to think along at that moment. So when he said, okay, then let's go and see if I can find you a pair for 50 euros. I knew when he brought me the pair, if it fit, I was going to take it regardless of what it was, because there was a consciousness that he brought into that moment that made it special for me.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate him for that.
Oh yeah.
Cass Mitchley, I'm really sorry for going off topic.
What was the topic? Cass doesn't get angry for us for going off topic.
No, but he's going to have to edit this stuff.
Do you think
out.
he'll edit? No, Cass will not edit this out. He'll edit us talking about him on the show, but he'll leave everything else. Yeah. Yeah. Cass, who people who watch our show regularly know that Cass is the audio engineer who edits us down.
And then these get broadcasted on.
They get broadcasted on
Spotify,
all the podcast networks.
Yeah.
Well, he has been going through his own life changes. He's in a separation right now. And he has been doing our shows and editing them and enjoying the edits. So he will contact me, once every 2 weeks and share a show that he liked. He, and I won't go into the show names, he told me that he likes certain shows that I told him not to edit. We'll talk about that off air. God forbid we mention the shows that we don't think were any good.
And then you get offended, and then we get you're not my friend.
Yeah. So Bolalong is talking about the 5 toes and says that he finds them good for walking.
You have them, Bolalong.
Yeah, Bolalong.
Bolalong, you're amazing.
Does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. I can totally see.
Bolalong's been posting a lot on crypto lately.
Yeah. Bolalong, and I see he's also done his sort of live video feed. So if you don't know Bolalong Racquet, and we don't say his name properly, he's endeavoring to do things online, and we love him. So it would be nice to check him out. And Johan Stan, who's also here, says, great show. Thank you, Johan.
Thank you, Johan.
Always good to have some validation from the outside world.
Yeah.
As we sit here and talk into a telephone.
That's how it started. We actually started with the telephone.
Yeah. Was it in this room?
In this room, Andy.
Yeah.
We're sitting here with a great backdrop. We put a great
backdrop in the back. We had a football helmet and an iPad shoved in it so the person's face could appear. Yeah. What an embarrassment.
And if you don't understand what we're saying, you have to go back to our first shows.
Do we even put those online? I think we're just, I thought we were trying to forget about those. Like they never really happened.
I think they're there, Andy.
Yeah.
I think they're there.
The days when we were just starting out.
Or at least on our Facebook wall, because we didn't discover live stream back then.
Oh yeah, that's true. We were still figuring it all out.
So in general, where we mess up actually as individuals is when we have an idea of how it should be.
Yeah.
And that really narrows down the scope of meeting people where they are.
Yeah, and I would say, I don't know how it is for you, but the older I've gotten, the fewer friends I have.
I'm always going to be hard. So sorry.
Yeah, well, I would say, when I say fewer friends,
your capacity to have a lot of people around you is, I think, what you mean.
That's what I mean. Yeah, because on one level, I have more friends than I've ever had in my life, but on another level, like I in Amsterdam will go out with somebody once in a half year, for dinner, right? It's just so that type of friendship I don't really have so much. I mean, person calling and connecting with that happens a lot, just to connect with people. But there's something in connecting, which is having a moment, sharing something meaningful, and then going about the rest of my day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess my idea of friendship is
when you say older.
Yeah.
My brain also goes to as we're getting closer to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
We start to also clean up a little bit our life, because time is more precious. So in that respect, what do I really want and need at this moment to live a more fulfilling life? And it's funny that death does give us that perspective.
Yeah, it forces some urgency. Like we say, hey, if I only had so much time, do I really want to spend it dealing with this shit?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brings me back to our podcast we did in the cemetery.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's interesting because when I was reflecting back on the friendship thing, and I said when I have fewer friends, I guess I'd probably rephrase that and say my idea of what friendship has changed. So when I was younger, friendship meant for me spending time with people at the park, going to dinner, having
Parties.
drinks, going to parties. Like that was how I saw friendship in my younger years. Like if when I lived in Vienna, like I'd go to skiing every weekend with just a group of like 10 people, and I realized that that was sort of the group of friends.
Yeah.
And so when I was saying earlier, I think what I would think is how I view friendship has changed. And so it's almost like if you're present with me at any moment, then you're a friend. That's it. And then, like you said earlier, it doesn't matter if we don't talk for 5 years. If we show up and we both show up, then that's it. So with the message that came in, which started the show, which is like, I give this person and they don't give back to me, I would ask, when you're giving, are you even present with that person, or is it a sense of just doing what you think a friendship is, which is being there for another when they want to vomit, whatever the problems are on that day. Yeah.
And I can take that on a different spin. Also, if someone is going through something and they're in our vicinity, sometimes we want to be there for them because it's uncomfortable for us to deal with the discomfort, so we need to solve it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the solving is not even for them, but for us. Yeah. Or getting a sense of worth or sense of validation.
Yeah. What's interesting is that I was thinking about certain things, like it was funny with people in our lives, people that we both might know.
Like who?
I don't want to say name because I'll tell the story and then we have. So someone in our network, someone you're closer than I am, was fired recently. And I found interesting is that the first thing I felt compelled to do, although I'm not even that close to the individual, was just to call and let them know that I was thinking of them.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that person might even have friends that are closer to them that wouldn't make that call. Closer in the sense of spend more time.
Yeah. I was surprised you made the call.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
because I don't really know the person that well.
You don't know them, and I don't know that you've ever really picked up the phone to talk to that guy, or even message him on Messenger.
No, of course not.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, that's when someone's going through something. That's just a loving thing to do.
Yeah.
And I know that when someone's suffering, some of the hardest thing is just feeling alone in it. So just sharing the consciousness that you're aware that it's not easy is also very supportive.
Yeah. And it's funny, we actually both reached out independently of each other, knowing it.
Yeah. But I mean, we've had that a lot. I mean, I remember a friend in our circle also had a parent die.
Yeah.
And immediately we both independently. And I think that's like, in a way, that's where, I don't know, the word friendship is also for me a bit confused. That's just a loving thing to do. So even the idea of it needing to be a friend, I might not even know a person and I'd still feel compelled to show some love in whatever shape and form.
You felt compelled to hang up a business call to be with a bird that was dying.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's just, I would say, being present to what's really in that moment. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I take it a step further when you said that. Like, it felt weird for me as I'm in Spain taking care of this 1,000-year-old tree to stop that so that I could get on a call. That felt weird. Like, once you feel closer to nature, you see, why isn't nature getting the priority? Yeah.
Actually, when you're closer to nature, and you go back into the civilized so-called world where everyone has problems, and you're doing coaching and they bring those problems in, you're like, wow, I think you need to come into nature.
Yeah.
Because that noise between your ears,
it slows.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that time when I was in Spain. You mentioned it earlier. As time, the perception of time shifted for me dramatically on the farm. To the point it was a little bit scary. like I realized this disciplined brain that keeps focus, gets things done. You know, like I remembered I was out for lunch with Ronnie, just having the best day, and then in Spain, and then I randomly, I don't know, there was a beep maybe or something on my phone. Something happened that forced me to look, or maybe it was just coincidence. I don't know what it was. I wasn't looking at my phone that much, so it was really. And then I saw in 5 minutes I had a board meeting. So I look at my phone, I look at Ronnie, and I'm like, we gotta go. So I'm jumping in the car, driving, getting to the house, and thank God it's very close. So I made it on time. But it was just this funny thing where I was like wow. I thought that meeting was like 4 days. Like it's already Friday. I thought it was Monday. That was like the feeling, like you know, where we're in the city. Yeah. I might wake up and I'll be like, oh, it's Monday. Like I don't even know a day. There's no day in Spain. And Monday is Monday here. I mean, people don't see, but in Amsterdam at the moment, it's dark. I mean, you wake up it's dark at 10 in the morning. It's dark at 4 in the afternoon or whatever. Like it's just dark. So it's a long, long winter here.
Well, let's get one thing straight.
Yeah,
we stopped counting the days when COVID came. Like every day was the same lockdown.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell Monday from Sunday anymore.
No.
What day is it?
But that happened for me a long time. Ron, the only day, you know me, and the only day I know. What's the day I know? No.
Oh, date night.
Date night. Friday night. That's the only day I know.
Friday night is Andy's date night.
It's date night. Whatever I am, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, it's date night. It's date night. Yeah. So, but yeah, I when I said the anxiety came up because I saw how easy it was to get lost. And that being the future. And there was a surrender in that to say, okay, I let go of all things are more determined, organized, getting things done. I mean, the third book is already probably, you know, it could be published soon. If I just sat down and did it, because it's already in the draft form, it's already gone through the first edit. It has a lot of things that need to be done for it to really, I think, have some more readership, because it's not written so like storytelling. People like storytelling. This is more linear. But whatever. So, but my computer broke, and I just took it as a sign. I said, okay, the universe is telling me not to work right now.
I think you should work on it. You have a new laptop.
Yeah, there is some, and I think as I pause, there's new stories, and those stories can be brought in. And I think that's important.
The hell had just happened?
I think Ronnie turned off the lights in the house, not realizing that but it is kind of funny, isn't it? It does feel very romantic right now.
Andy?
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I.
Actually, okay.
What's that?
I was going to put candles.
Oh man!
So there's different switches in the house can actually control the rest of the lights in the building. So.
Yeah, one button turns every single house. That was what we did so that I wouldn't have to walk up 3 flights of stairs every day to make sure the lights were off. Yeah. So I think it would be nice to give a little summation, starting where we came from, which is that I like my friends, or I treat my friends better than they treat me. And what I think and what I see is that if I myself know what I want from my relationships, forgetting about it, labeling it as a friendship.
Any kind of relationship.
Yeah. If I just decide what I want for my relationships, then I'll see whether the interaction is giving me that. And then I decide if I want to continue with that relationship. But the important part being that there's no blame in the moving on.
So in the moving on, that it's really an act of love and not diminishing the other. Exactly.
It's more following more of what I want, as opposed to I don't want assholes like that in my life.
I'm not going to talk to this person anymore.
Yeah, there can be a bit of that as well.
Oh, you know what? I'll say sometimes like I don't want this energy in my life anymore.
Well, yeah, but that's also true. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'll cut it off in that energy. It's like I'll catch myself in that paradigm, and then I'll be like, okay, and I'll see them. But I'm like, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I'll even say that there's a sense of helplessness
Yeah.
when I have that discovery.
Yeah, because there's not really anything you can do with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
4, 3, 2, 1. We are up on
To
an
an
hour, Andy.
hour. How did it feel, Bambos? Because we haven't done an hour together, or we guess we did, but this feels more like the last one we did felt like us just catching up after a long time away. So how did this feel for you?
Felt good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Any different than before, or is it just continuing the same way it was before?
I really like you ask me these questions, and I'm just enjoying the moment. And now, if you ask me that question, I need to
You go back
compare.
in your thought now.
And it's just evolving. I see in the past when we started with COVID. It was impacting my business. I was crying on the shows. I was more emotional. The ratings were much higher because people would like to watch me suffer.
Yeah.
I was also more withdrawn, more quiet. I was going through a lot of trauma responses. I was shutting down on the show. It was fucking embarrassing, actually.
So much so your family said, please stop the show. Please stop the show. You're killing us.
And I think as we've evolved, or I've evolved, I'm more at peace.
Yeah.
So he said the other day, shit, I don't think this was a good, like about the show we did just the other day. That wasn't a good show because we're both at peace.
We got nothing to talk about. I noticed that, people who know us from a long time back know that we did the show because you and I used to talk, and you said, let's record what we're talking about. Yeah. Like that's how we started. So in a way, as you started to make peace with so many different aspects of your life, there was just less to discuss.
Yeah.
Because it was this like, yeah, you understand this. People that watching would some say, why is Andy always repeating himself? And it was always because there were the themes we would discuss, and we would just discuss them on air. Yeah. And it feels like we kind of, after 280 shows, that's a lot of things to have discussed.
Fucking process.
280 of these things.
And don't forget, we had 4 guests every week.
Yeah, 4 guests every week.
So we had 1 show with us and 4 guests.
Yeah. And we had some, we went through a lot of journeys with people, actually. Yeah. And there's a lot of shows. I've got about 30 shows that are edited that are ready for the podcast, which I haven't put on yet. So there's a lot coming down the pipeline from these edited shows, which just take out the filler and the things that just don't add to the content.
Ask me why I'm smiling.
Why is that? Because my hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should comb it before we do a show, shouldn't I? Should do some self-care. We see you tomorrow. What's the topic tomorrow, Bambos?
If you give me a second.
I love how we only have 2 topics, but we can't remember them. What's the topic we're supposed to do? It's as if we don't know what the one thing we're going to discuss about for an hour tomorrow. What is the one thing we're going to discuss about for an hour tomorrow?
The difference between holding space and re-traumatizing with Andy Selflove and Bambos Charles Dimitriou.
Yeah. This is a great topic because I think it's one of those things. I've seen a lot of trainers that feel like if I get my client to cry, if I just get them to cry, that's the breakthrough. And I've just seen how they don't see that actually their idea that that's a goal or a destination misses the point that the person is actually suffering, and that you're there to hold their hand and support them wherever they are, not where you think they should be. So we're going to discuss that for the hour.
So much more
on
a wonderful
Okay.
Awesome.